For a while there, it seemed like Deflategate was done, finished, kaput. But then, less than 1 week after a federal judge overturned Tom Brady's 4-game suspension, the two biggest names in sports media weighed in with big takedowns, accusing the Patriots of systematic cheating. Adam Riley has more.
You could feel a collective sigh of relief.
That was the Boston media last week after federal judge Richard Berman ripped the NFL and Commissioner Roger Goodell and said Tom Brady could start the Patriots season opener after all. Apparently, Deflategate was dead. But then...
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Blame ESPN and Sports Illustrated, both of which published huge exposés casting the Patriots as inveterate cheaters. SI says other teams think the Patriots have played fast and loose with league rules for years, breaking them or looking for ways around them.
When you look at it, there are reasons to be suspicious.
And ESPN says Goodell had had enough, getting tough after Deflategate because he hadn't been tough enough after Spygate, when the team was caught illegally videotaping opponents' signals. Goodell insists it's not true.
I'm not aware of any connection between the Spygate procedures and the procedures we went through here.
While both stories were deeply reported, they also relied heavily on anonymous sources, a sign, according to WEEI's Dennis and Callahan, showed that they were hit jobs.
These are both kind of gotcha pieces. Just because New England Patriot fans are paranoid doesn't mean the whole league isn't out to get them, and the whole media establishment.
Still more evidence that when it comes to Deflategate, there are two distinct camps, New England and everybody else.
Well, this could be a first. I'm in complete 100% and total agreement with Dennis and Callahan. I think this was a hit job, and I think they were out to get them. The other thing that really bothers me about some of this reporting, and I have to say the ESPN piece was thorough in parts, is that there's a tone about it that they can't wait to get the takedown, that they're never going to believe that the Patriots and Tom Brady in particular didn't have any knowledge or didn't know anything, and this is all about a quid pro quo between Spygate and Deflategate. And they're never going to admit, not a single sports writer that I've seen, there was a little bit of kind of waffling on the part of Dan Shaughnessy, that some of the earlier reporting they did about Deflategate was off the mark. Sports reporters aren't going to say, hey, I got it wrong. They're not going to do it.
No, you're right. You know, I have to say, let me talk about the ESPN story, which was more in-depth than the Sports Illustrated story,
It was.
and it's created more controversy. You know, I know what you're saying, and yet certainly Don Van Natta, the lead reporter on that, is a highly respected
Globe
reporter. Globe guy, New York Times guy. He's, I mean, he's really kind of the gold standard on these things. I had kind of a mixed view of that story. I thought it was very strong on showing that there was indeed this tie between Deflategate was a make-up call for Spygate. But there were an awful lot of anonymous sources. And it isn't that you think they're making anything up. It's just
I thought they made stuff up, like stealing the play sheets? Come on.
Well, the anonymous sources did. But you just don't know who they are, what their motives are, any of that. There was also a lack of clarity between on the timing and when was something illegal and when was it simply considered, you know, bad form. It was a little hard to parse that way too.
I have to say, I think the ESPN piece, and right away I should disclose, Don Van Natta's won 3 Pulitzer Prizes, 2 for the New York Times, 1 for the Miami Herald. He is one of the most solid reporters, I think, in journalism today. It's always problematic and troublesome when you depend so heavily on anonymous sources, and it was, I think, unfortunate, and it weakened that story there. But I think the story was less about the connection between Deflategate and Spygate, and added much more detail about Spygate and spying and a culture that Bill Belichick apparently supports and was an instigator in.
That was good.
That went back for years, and that, to me, was legitimate journalism and troubling.
I agree totally, and I have no dog in this fight, as you all know. I could really care. But I got to say, the piece in there that thinking about the destroying of the evidence of Spygate, really? And then I have to go and say, well, Tom Brady destroyed his cell phone. Sorry, people. That just looks bad to me. I mean, and you can see why people are angry with them. and calling them cheaters. Once you read that story and see all the details of what happened, whether Goodell was right or not,
The NFL
it was
destroyed it,
handled.
not the Patriots.
I'm sorry, what?
The NFL destroyed.
Well, I know that, but that's my point. And so my point is that the evidence was destroyed because there's all this sort of cover up about what did they do, what they didn't, and that's where the quid pro quo comes in. I just thought I thought
I
it
want
was
another
really
bite at this. Go
solid.
ahead.
Well, I just from reading the piece, to me, it felt like I was reading a script from like Goodfellas or Scarface or something and I say that with like the most respect because I love those movies and I also thought it was a fantastic piece, but the fact that like from the minute that the buildup of the Patriots sort of devising this system and realizing we can start taping and all we have to do is turn our shirts inside out, and like once they get a notice from the NFL to say okay, no filming, but they keep going further and further and they just can't stop themselves. We can all agree that anonymous sources are a bad thing, but we can also all agree that they are notorious throughout the media, whether it's the New York Times, whether it's ESPN. We have a problem with it. Like it's the drug that the media can't get up. That said, I also think that in this case that you have to admit that there is a pattern here. Whether it is lawful or not, I think that we can at least establish that the Patriots wanted to bend the rules in some cases. I also think, though, that this is something that every team in the NFL will do because they all want to bend the rules in their own way. I think the thing that this also tells, though, that is not a surprise to anybody here or anybody in New England, is that people definitely have it out for the Patriots.
But getting back to the media part of it again, everybody picked up, especially the ESPN story. The Globe even put its own analysis of the ESPN story on the front pages without knowing supposedly who all those anonymous sources were. And then Mike Reese, I think is from ESPN.com Boston, did his own analysis, regurgitating much of what was in the ESPN piece. His piece gets redacted, for lack of a better word, edited out. He's repeating things like how impossible it was that somebody could have stolen play sheets. His thing gets ripped to pieces, but the original piece stands. I don't understand that.
Yeah, 7 takeaways became 5 takeaways.
I don't understand how the original
outrageous.
piece stands and his gets edited. All right, I'm done. Probably not.